Hello. For my paper critique on urban patterns, I chose the article titled Urban Green Space, Public Health and Environmental Justice, The Challenge of Making Cities Just Green Enough. This article was published in the Journal of Landscape and Urban Planning, and it was written by three authors. Jennifer Wolch is the Dean and Professor of City and Regional Planning at the University of California, Berkeley. Jason Byrne is from Griffith University in Australia, and Joshua Newell is the professor at the School of Natural Resources and Environment at University of Michigan. The primary theme of this article is to address the idea of spaces that are just green enough. Green spaces in urban areas have numerous benefits for the residents, but often lead to gentrification and the pricing out of the very citizens who the green initiatives were intended to benefit. This article seeks to examine where the line is between not green enough and too green. The article begins with an introduction to the idea of green spaces. The authors define green space as parks and reserves, sporting fields, riparian areas like streams and riverbanks, greenways and trails, community gardens, street trees, and nature conservation areas, as well as less conventional spaces such as green walls, green alleyways, and cemeteries. Private backyards, communal grounds of apartment buildings, and corporate campuses are also included. After this description, the authors then address the issue of gentrification and how it leads to the undermining of the purpose of green space initiatives. To emphasize this issue, the next section of the article explains the health benefits gained through the implementation of green space. Generally, there are fewer opportunities in poorer urban areas for outdoor recreation and exercise, leading to declining health statistics. The implementation of green spaces in these areas is intended to alleviate the issue, but will be undermined if all of the residents are priced out of the newly improved areas and end up migrating to cheaper urban areas that lack green space anyway. The next section of the article discusses the advantages of existing green spaces in poorer urban areas. Even in cases where poor residents have access to green space, it is often not well maintained and left dilapidated or stigmatized. Additionally, in areas with gang or drug-related violence, it can be dangerous for residents to use their green spaces. The article then shifts to a case study, the city of Hangzhou, China. Hangzhou is a rapidly industrializing city with a major pollution problem. To offset this issue, efforts have been put in place to restore lost green space, to include the demolition of factories for parks, retrofitting green space alongside formerly dilapidated canals, and underneath and alongside main roads and railway lines, as well as mass tree planting along city streets. Because of this, Hangzhou has been classified as a garden city. In spite of these commendable efforts, the city still suffers from the same issue of gentrification that many other greenified cities do. Additionally, due to Hangzhou's tendency to place green spaces near railways and freeways, this likely exposes users to pollutants. With this as an example, the article concludes with its contention that the design of green space projects that are explicitly shaped by community concerns, needs, and desires, rather than either conventional urban design formulae or ecological restoration approaches. The primary strength of this article lies in its choice of Hangzhou as an example city. Hangzhou is generally recognized as a great example of eco-friendly development. By using this instead to highlight the issues with green spaces, the point hits home quite well. Additionally, the proposed solution seems practicable. Through careful consideration and the tweaking of the method and means with which green spaces are added to urban areas, immense gains in value appear attainable. The primary weakness of this article is in its lack of an explanation of where the funding for green initiatives should come from. Should green initiatives replace other development projects or be added to a city's budget? In the article, they don't offer any explanation as to how the payment for these green spaces what that looks like in the city of Hangzhou, and how that might have to look different if it were implemented in places like the United States or other European countries. One key finding raised by this article is in the use of obsolete architecture. I live in a suburb of Detroit, a city infamous for its abundance of dilapidated, obsolete architecture. Recycling this architecture to create new green spaces could be a great way to revitalize the city. The next key finding is an exploration of how green space initiatives shift to the distribution of populations within urban areas. Detroit, again, is a city notorious for its history of urban planning projects that disproportionately affected its black residents in a very similar way. Cities must take care not to heedlessly pursue projects that may be looked upon with mixed feelings 50 years from now. Finally, seeing the example of Hangzhou, the development of massive green space projects could be a way to help revitalize massively industrialized areas that were once lush with vegetation. Thank you.